Welcome to the Effective Engineering Manager podcast.
Hello, Adam. It's your time today. What would you like to talk about?
Hey, Slava. We received some great feedback and ideas from our listeners recently, and today we are taking that feedback and starting a series from a listener request. And the request was, how do we get into leadership, and specifically, how did we know we wanted to or could be leaders? People that are out there that looking to get into leadership and want to know the path forward.
Thank you, our listeners, for the great feedback. And it's truly a great topic and something that I think can probably spend a bunch of episodes on. With such an important topic, how shall we start?
That's so true. And great idea. I think a good way to start is by talking about how we came into leadership, some of the unique opportunities provided to us, and kind of go from there and talk about some of our motivators. So to start, how did you come into leadership and what was your path like?
Well, I started as a software engineer way back ago, and it was great. And at some point, and I think my path is a bit unusual because there was times when market economy kicked in back in Russia and everyone ran after money. So I worked as a software engineer, and then I saw that what I was doing in a small team, we were trying to do certain things, but I felt that if we did them as a team and not as like two, three guys working on something, we could accomplish more. And that's why first time I thought that maybe I should hire people, right? Maybe I should hire a team so that we can take on larger projects, because we were just sitting and interesting things really like passing by and we were just not participating, right? And this is when I started hiring basically, and naturally grew into the situation where I couldn't code anymore, or at least had to spend minimum 50% of time building team, managing projects and delivering stuff and dealing with customers and support and stuff. So that's pretty much how it started. I was, I think, this time like 24, 25. And and then it was just a continuous path through growing the team, building the org, getting stuff done, doing more, and I just kept going.
Well, that's great. And, it's certainly an interesting journey for me. I think there's really two things. First is, as in my youth, having good role models around me, my family, who either had their own businesses or just were kind of natural leaders, just kind of rubbed off on me, I think, at an early age. Just knowing how to do things right and really take care of others and really be able to just have confidence in leading people. And then fast forward into my career, being a software engineer and just having opportunities that just came my way, or things that I created to, lead small projects, small features, and then just keep proving myself from there was just always enjoyable to me. Working with others, building something together. Started from that. I really enjoyed, coordinating work together, making sure things were getting done, really just having the freedom to take those steps and do that. And then, that led into getting noticed and building confidence in my boss and my boss's boss, and getting to a point where they were, willing to put me into an official role of leadership. And, the rest is kind of history and just learning as I go. That was another thing. I love to learn, and constantly reading and be able to apply it is always a great motivator.
Well, now that we shared a bit of our experience and how we came into the leadership roles, how about we get into some of the key reasons and motivators for pursuing a leadership position? I think it's important because wrong motivation can really build really bad managers.
Yeah, absolutely. Motivation and the right motivators are, I think it's definitively make or break between being a good leader and maybe not being as successful as you want. So to get started with what are some of the good motivators, I think the first one that comes to mind is initiative. I think anybody, well, first thing with becoming a manager, becoming a leader in any regard, uh, you have to first realize that there's nobody you can look up to. I mean, the buck kind of stops with you, even though you might have a boss. I mean, they're kind of tasking you with getting things done. And you have to start taking initiative. I mean, you have to recognize problems on your team. You have to recognize where there's challenges, solutions, or even things that are being done well, and just take the initiative to recognize that. So initiative is so critical. I think if you do not naturally have that, or if that's not one of your motivators, initiating, doing, things won't move forward. So that to me is the first one. How about you?
Yeah, this is good stuff. Certainly, initiative is something that you have to have, or it's not going to work. So, to me personally, one of the important things that future managers must have is a desire to help others. And I've seen it many times, and for me, it was the easiest thing to do when I wanted to or needed to develop a manager is to just watch the team and see who is running around helping people. These are the guys usually who make great management material.
Yeah, that's critical as well. I think going along with that, next motivator for me would be uh, strong emotional intelligence. I know that's a term that's been thrown around a lot in recent years, kind of a buzzword, but it's really true. And what that really means is awareness. I think when you get out of becoming an individual contributor and now have to start leading, it's really critical that you have situational and contextual awareness of the team, the organization, the politics, the bureaucracy, because your ability to kind of recognize that and adjust how you lead according to that will be a determining factor between success and failure.
You're right. I think we should have put emotional intelligence on the top of the list. So, just continuing, I think desire to accomplish more when you have a team is also important. It's an important motivator because with the team you can do bigger, better things.
Absolutely. I mean, it's very important because without that, there's no point in having a team. Next would be education and the willingness to want to learn and apply what you're learning. So, management and leadership I think is a lifelong journey, and your willingness and interest in just understanding why we do things we do as humans and how to become more effective and looking at what others have done and that have worked, have not worked, and just kind of having that in the back of your mind and being able to apply it, I think will ultimately make you a successful, stronger manager.
You're absolutely right. And I think education is super important, especially for the engineering managers, because most of us, if not all of us, come to the job without any education, right? Circumstances, desire, readiness, they all throw us into that, and then you really have to start learning, because without learning, chances of doing this good job are not very high. So another thing is important when it comes to motivation is readiness to work more. And this is important because managers usually start their day earlier than the team and stay up late much longer. And it doesn't matter what level. Frontline engineering managers need to prepare for the stand-up, need to prepare for the for sprint planning, or VPs or directors have to build strategies, make sure that the programs are running, and all the good stuff. So it's a lot of work, and you have to be ready to work more.
Absolutely, so true. I mean, and I would say, you almost have to be passionate about getting up early or working late, and sometimes both. But working has to be part of your DNA. It doesn't mean you have to kill yourself, but there has to be that sense of, really just enjoying what you're doing and making that a part of your life to some degree and putting the time in. Next thing is I would call it consistency. So and this is kind of looking at it from the opposite perspective. So as a manager, when somebody comes to me and asks for an opportunity to lead, one of the first things I look for is how consistent they have been in what they've done, because consistency is absolutely critical when you're leading a team. Nobody wants a manager or boss that is, constantly changing things and all over the place, right? Because in addition to being chaotic, I mean, that creates no direction, period. And so if you have demonstrated consistency in the work that you've done previously and how you go about your work and some of your habits all being fairly consistent, that's also another motivator to want to put somebody in a management position. And I think from the other person's side, the person that wants to be a manager, their interest in being consistent and sending a consistent message and not just being knee-jerk about things is a great motivator.
Good point. And really, consistency is pushing through forward continuously, right, and getting results. And management is not possible without consistency. So another thing that I think which is very important is a strong interest in building people. And if you just look at how often managers are called people managers, right? And the fundamental responsibility of every manager is developing people. It means developing their careers, developing their capabilities, developing careers and transitioning engineers to managers. So this is all about building better people and building a better team. And without such motivation, it's really hard to imagine being effective as a manager.
Yeah, I think that's really key. And I think actually that's one of the factors that often gets overlooked. I think people that get into management roles, especially in engineering, miss that part, right? They look at just leading the team is enough, but not growing the team and building people in their careers. That's like oftentimes not looked at, or if anything, sometimes it's even deprioritized. So I think it's an excellent point. Next is having an interest in being a problem solver and solving whatever challenge comes your way. As a manager, I can laugh at this because almost every day there is some new form of challenge. You have to be, first of all, feel a sense of responsibility, professional maturity for everything that is in your purview: product, people, processes, tools. And recognize that there are always going to be things that are going to need fixing. I mean, anybody can point a finger and say, that's wrong, that's a challenge, I'm blocked. Everybody can point and complain about things, but very few people can actually provide effective solutions. And I'll take that even further and say, as managers, oftentimes we get too frustrated when we have to constantly solve problems because we feel like it's taking away from our ability to be productive. So as a good leader, a motivator is if you enjoy solving problems and any time a problem comes to your desk, that you are willing to dive into it and help solve whatever it is, and take the time to do it, work with the team, I think is such an important motivator and skill that will be recognized.
Yeah, good stuff. And you're absolutely right, because having a problem and recognizing that you have a problem is the first and very important step. But it means nothing unless you are going to engage and solve that problem. This is super critical. So, and the last thing out of those 10 items that we came up with of strength and motivations is focus on getting things done. And it means that the job of pretty much a definition of a job is getting things done. But for a manager, it's even more important because we as managers are responsible not only for ourselves, but also for the output of the team. And having a strong system of delivering good working software products is super critical. And we already had an episode on getting stuff done through Think, Plan, Execute. But a future manager should demonstrate to themselves and to people around them very consistent ability to continuously getting stuff done.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what you're going to be measured as a manager, is how effectively you can get things done from your team. So I think it's a great list of motivators, and these are positive motivators. Um, what do you say we explore some of the maybe some negative motivators that should not be used for determining if you want to be a manager?
Good point, because I think when we go through the list of good things, such as our strength, our motivators, right, might be hard to, look yourself in the mirror and tell, hey, it's not me, right? But it's important to have this honest self-check and this honest conversation with yourself, and see if the motivators below are the actual drivers of your desire to become a manager. And if they are, maybe this job is not for you. So how about you start?
Sure. So I think one of the first ones at the top of the list is I'm a good engineer. Therefore, I'm going to be a good manager or a good leader. This is all too often the case where we, just because someone has demonstrated really strong engineering skills, that it's a false sense of confidence that that person can lead a team. Very big stretch, and it's kind of anomaly to me, like why that happens so often. But just the fact that you're a good engineer means you're a good engineer, and you can probably lead more challenging engineering exercise. It doesn't necessarily mean you can lead a team, right? Because there are whole other factors, and it's probably 20 other episodes that we could spend on why a good engineer doesn't necessarily translate to that. But if that is your reasoning and motivation, you might want to think about that a little bit more, because that may not necessarily translate.
Yes, all right. And certainly the idea that long, strong engineering career automatically graduates someone in management is really not the correct one, right? The more we work as engineers, by the way, I love to be an engineer, I love to code. The more we become better and better engineers, right? It doesn't make you a manager. So next one is, and I've met it a few times, and it really rubbed me the wrong way. That's why I wanted to mention it here, right? And this one is the wrong motivation is, I want to work less. And somehow it comes from this idea that the managers work less. And I've had a few cases when people came to me and said, I want to be a manager. I'm ready. And I asked, well, why do you want to be a manager? And they said, well, all managers do is to, type PowerPoints and, show PowerPoints during meetings, right? So this is wrong, right? Just like we described, right motivations are there. It's a very hard work, and certainly not an easy work that gives you less, gives you more me time and less time killing yourself.
Absolutely, that's a huge pet peeve for me as well. I've actually had similar encounters in my career where people come to me and say, "Man, I wish I could be a manager because I wouldn't have to work as hard." And I'm like, "Well, first of all, that's completely wrong, like you mentioned, and number two, the point of being a manager is being a leader. You want to bring some pride and passion to what you're doing, right? And so the mindset that you're just going to kind of relax and not do anything is completely orthogonal to what the goal is anyways. So I totally agree with you on that. The next one I think is a bad motivator is when you hear things, people say, well, being a manager allows me to delegate more. I can give orders, I can, direct people and help, even if their intents are good to just streamline things. They think that the main tool of a manager is to direct work and delegate everything down. And if that is your motivator, then again, for a similar reason, you're missing the point that yes, as a manager, you have to be able to delegate, but that's because you have so much coming your way. And I think it ties to one of our strengths where part of delegating is to grow others. But if you're just delegating just to give orders or just pass everything down, you're missing opportunities to grow the team and grow individuals and ultimately build a better team. So that certainly is not a good
Right.
motivator.
Certainly, thinking that the job consists of giving orders and it's so easy is really missing the point, because we are teaching and preaching the philosophy of the um, servant manager. It means that you have to take care of the team, you have to grow them, you have to build them, you have to set up processes, you have to drive and monitor and launch and land programs. That's a lot of work, right? And you cannot do it by giving orders, right? Because if the only thing you're doing is giving orders, right, it means that you are the bottleneck, right? You are the one who is deciding everything, right? You are the one who knows everything, and no one else knows nothing, right? So that's a really bad motivator. And I think the last one that we wanted to bring up, there might be a few more, but these are the important ones. That these four that we are talking about is the idea that when people think that they're going to do better than their boss, or they think that they can do better than their boss, right? And I've seen it a few times, especially when I was coaching a few folks who are wanted to transition to the management responsibilities, management roles. They come to me and ask, why do you want to be a manager? And they say, well, my boss sucks, right? And I then ask, and then what? And then, well, I want to be a manager. and then usually it's not a horrible thing to think something like this, but first of all, it shows that an individual is not ready, right? Because they don't demonstrate the level of emotional intelligence and situational awareness that you just brought up, right? Because they do not realize that there is a context which is invisible to them, the context of their manager, because managers do not dump everything on their people, right? They take care of themselves, right? And we often, and it's true for managers too, because they have managers too, is that we do not know the context they operate on, and thinking that we can do better not knowing their context, right, is really meaningless, right? Number one. And number two, even if you think, you strongly believe that you can do better, why are you not doing it, right? What is that your boss have that you don't, for you to start working and making things better? And we talked about the motivation, right? Desire to make things better, right? Desire to deliver. Why are you not doing this, right? So it's really not a thing, right? You not a good driver and not a good motivator.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. You know, I think you're right that everybody starts by thinking, "Well, I think I could do this better," but the people that actually translate that into something palatable that they can share with their boss or others, which includes a plan for how it can be better and what they're going to do, are the ones that are ultimately successful, right? You don't have to complain about something to be effective at change. You can demonstrate it, you can plan for it, you can do something, but just talking about it and thinking you can do it better without understanding any context is certainly not a recipe for success.
Good stuff. So, Adam, to recap, can you give us a short checklist so that our listeners can check on themselves and see if they have the right stuff to think about becoming a leader and a manager?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing we want listeners to do is do a self-check. Take some time. If you're thinking about getting into management, or you're interested or want to know your path forward, or even if you've already started that path, take some time, some quiet time, and do a self-check and be honest with yourself. First thing, identify if you have the strengths needed to take on the role. And again, there are many possible strengths, but you ultimately want to use your strengths for something. So it's a customized portfolio that you're trying to put forward. And some strengths include taking initiative, having a strong emotional intelligence quotient, awareness, being very interested in learning and educating yourself on best management practices, and understanding a little bit more of the industry around it. Number 4, having the readiness to work more, put in the time and effort. Again, not killing yourself, but are you willing to put in more substantial effort where needed to to grow this, to build this team, run this team, and do what's necessary, including sometimes early hours, late nights. And the last thing is, are you a consistent person in what you do? Or do you have the confidence that being a manager, you will exhibit patterns of consistency as well? And then once you identify what your strengths are, see if they are supported by the right motivation. And Slava, do you want to take the listeners through some possible right motivations to support their strengths?
Sure thing. So number 1 is a strong desire to help others. Number 2, desire to accomplish more with the team. Number 3, strong interest in building people. And number 4, interest in solving problems and challenges. And number 5, focus on getting things done.
Well, thank you, Slava. Thank you for recapping some of the motivators, and we hope that our listeners out there can do the self-check, align their strengths with possible motivations, and go from there. And in our upcoming episode, we're going to pick up from here and show how some of the output of this motivation checklist can lead you on your path towards the next step in executing your leadership journey. So stay tuned.